In the winter of 1860, the United States was tearing itself apart. Before the new president even took the oath of office, 7 southern states officially seceded from the Union, forming their own breakaway nation. The man inheriting this fractured country was Abraham Lincoln, a self-educated prairie lawyer. He had just won a highly contested 1860 election without receiving a single electoral vote from the Deep South. A month after he arrived in Washington, Confederate forces fired on federal troops at Fort Sumter in South Carolina. The American Civil War had begun. Suddenly, Lincoln was commander-in-chief of a capital city surrounded by hostile slave states. The Constitution provided rules for passing laws and managing peacetime commerce, but it contained no instruction manual for how a president should handle a massive internal rebellion. To keep the country from dissolving completely, Lincoln calculated that playing strictly by the old rules would guarantee failure. He had to assume executive authority on a scale no previous president had ever attempted. Without waiting for Congress to convene, Lincoln responded with a series of unilateral military strikes. He ordered 75,000 militiamen to march on the South and imposed a naval blockade on Confederate ports to strangle their export economy. The threat extended deep into Union territory. In Maryland, local Confederate sympathizers began sabotaging the railway bridges connecting Washington to the north. To stop the sabotage, Lincoln took his most controversial step yet. He suspended the writ of habeas corpus. This is the legal principle that prevents the government from locking you up without a trial. By suspending it, military commanders could arrest thousands of suspected saboteurs and hold them indefinitely. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roger B. Taney, explicitly ruled that under the Constitution, only Congress had the power to suspend habeas corpus. Lincoln completely ignored him, continuing the military detentions anyway. Lincoln argued that strict adherence to one specific law was useless if the entire government collapsed as a result. He chose to break the rules of peacetime to ensure there would be a country left to govern in the future. Lincoln applied this same heavy-handed approach to the battlefield. He closely micromanaged his generals, ruthlessly firing hesitant commanders like George McClellan until he found aggressive leaders like Ulysses S. Grant who were willing to press the attack. But fielding a massive army required an astronomical amount of money. Within months, the federal government had nearly drained its reserves and was staring down total bankruptcy. Looking at this 1861 $10 note, you can see how the government engineered a workaround. Lincoln authorized printing greenbacks, the first federal banknotes issued since the Revolution. These weren't backed by gold or silver, but simply by the government's promise to pay. To stabilize this new currency and pay down the exploding national debt, Lincoln pushed Congress to pass the Revenue Act of 1861. For the first time in American history, citizens were required to pay a direct federal income tax. Between printing paper money and taxing citizen incomes, supplying the Union Army forced the federal government to permanently expand its financial reach. Lincoln used his authority as commander-in-chief to issue the Emancipation Proclamation as a unilateral military decree. Reading this original manuscript, you won't find a sprawling moral philosophy. Instead, Lincoln used a legal loophole. By seizing enslaved people as property for military necessity, he crippled the Confederate economy and made it politically impossible for anti-slavery European powers to ally with them. With a single stroke of his pen and bypassing the legislative branch entirely, Lincoln turned a regional conflict over secession into an absolute war for freedom. Lincoln's extreme measures ultimately worked. By April 1865, Robert E. Lee surrendered the Confederate Army at Appomattox, securing the survival of the United States. But just 5 days later, while attending a play in Washington, Lincoln was shot. The assassination instantly transformed him from a highly controversial wartime executive into an untouchable national martyr. The gunman, a Confederate spy and actor named John Wilkes Booth, had plotted the murder in revenge for the South's defeat and Lincoln's push to expand voting rights to black men. Lincoln was dead, and his greatest achievement was legally fragile. Because he had issued the Emancipation Proclamation strictly as a wartime military order, courts could easily strike it down the moment peacetime was officially declared. To prevent the courts from reversing emancipation, the nation needed structural reform. This document, the 13th Amendment, formalized Lincoln's wartime overreach, embedding the abolition of slavery directly into the permanent text of the United States Constitution. Looking back at his presidency, Abraham Lincoln operated with near dictatorial authority. He locked up citizens, defied the courts, and spent millions without congressional approval. Yet the Republic did not collapse into tyranny. In the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln argued that the nation was dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. By using executive power to end slavery, he tied the survival of the Union directly to the moral promises of the Declaration of Independence. He successfully shifted the country's focus from the technicalities of the Constitution to the moral weight of those founding ideals. Lincoln demonstrated that a democracy sometimes has to bend its own rules to survive. In doing so, he ensured that a government of the people, by the people, for the people, would endure to shape the modern world.